The other thing about how people talk about racial disparities in enforcement is that it looks at enforcement as if it's the only output of the criminal justice system, right? But it's not, right? Yes, police make arrests, police use force, prosecutors prosecute, judges sentence people, to time in prison and jail. But when the criminal justice system operates well and it achieves its goals, crime goes down. Mm-hmm. And no one wants to talk about how evenly or unevenly distributed the benefits of crime reductions are. And they're just as unequally distributed as the costs. And when you incorporate the distribution of the benefits into the analysis, that really complicates things for people on the left, because they now have to confront the following rhetorical question, which is, why on earth would a system that is allegedly designed and operated for the specific oppression of low-income minority communities so disproportionately benefit low-income minority communities when the system works, when the system achieves its stated ends, when the system does what police chiefs say they're setting out to do? Right? I mean, if you look at the homicide decline between 1990 and 2014 in this country, it added a full year of life expectancy to the average Black man's life. That is an enormous public health benefit. There's a researcher who did a paper on this that found that the public health equivalent of that would be to eliminate obesity altogether, right? So a full year of life expectancy for Black men. How much life expectancy did it add for white men? 0.14 years. That's an enormously unequal distribution. Mm-hmm. And so if you have police chiefs, prosecutors, judges in criminal courts who say that their goal, what motivates them, is to control crime, well, then you have to read that as an anti-racist agenda if there ever was one. Right. Because we know who's going to benefit the most from that project if it succeeds, and it's not rich white people.
It doesn't feel like their goal is actually to minimize crime. The message that we're hearing is that their goal is to lower the number of criminals in prison and lower the racial discrepancy, I guess, in arrest. But you never hear them actually say that what they want to do is actually reduce crime. You see that in their policies, right?
Well, I think that's true, especially for prosecutors, where we've seen the growth of the progressive prosecutor movement. I think that's true for judges, which have moved significantly towards this kind of decarceration orientation. I think it's less true for police. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons I say that is because, if you just read a story about a homicide or a terrible crime that's been committed in a city, pick your city, whatever, jurisdiction you want to talk about, and they have any kind of detail about the suspect that's been arrested in that case, inevitably, you will see that that person has 10, 15, 20 prior arrests. They were out on bail, they were out on probation, they were just arrested last week and let go. What does that tell us? That tells us the police are still doing a pretty good job of spending their resources responding to crime and concentrating on people who pose a significant risk, but it also tells us that the rest of the criminal justice system is not operating as a backstop in the way that it used to. And that's really been the most significant change, right? Police are still making arrests. They're not being as proactive as they were. But that's out of, I think, an understandable fear that they're not going to be given a fair shake if they make a mistake, if they do something that looks bad on camera. But when they do make an arrest, prosecutors are less likely to prosecute. Mm-hmm. When they do make an arrest and the prosecutor prosecutes, the judge is less likely to hand down a serious sentence.
So the police officer feels, why bother?
Exactly.
Why take a risk? Why take a risk with your own life, with your own career, when the threshold is so high, and then you deliver the criminal, and then basically the prosecutors and the judges do nothing with it.
Right, yeah. Right? And even if they go to prison, the first chance that they get before the parole board, they get let out, right? And so, this is really the kind of story that motivates me to do the work that I do. I'm just sick and tired of reading just example after example of some tragic crime that was essentially avoidable. Avoidable, why? Mm-hmm. Because the person who committed it could have been behind bars.
Right.
It was a political choice to say, we're going to let him out. It was a political choice to say, we're going to give this kid probation, even though this is his third gun charge. It's a political choice to say, no, we're not going to pursue the third strike enhancement of an extra 25 years in this case, which means this guy's going to be out in 4. Mm-hmm. Why do we let them get away with it?